What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. And what can I say? It's week 9. Happy NFL Sunday to all those who celebrate. Sorry for missing week 8. But in today's video, we're going to recap everything that's happened, preview each team, each game, and just kind of see how I've been doing game by game so far this season. It's been, a rough season. And I think part of that is because we've seen more upsets than ever. I'd say, there's no super dominant NFL team. It feels like each team, I think, has 2 losses. So besides the Colts or something. So it's been a crazy NFL season, but it's been a fun one, and that makes it harder to predict. So I'm going to try some new strategies now. I think predict more upsets. I've always been a numbers analytical guy, but that really hasn't panned out this season. I think it's time to mix up the strategy. But with that being said, if you're just a football fan, please make sure to like and subscribe because I've been coming out with a lot of content, not over the past couple weeks, but just trying to cover the NFL season. We're going to continue that. Kickoff is in about 2 hours, under 2 hours, and probably when people are seeing this, it's already happened. So you'll see how I did predictions wise. But with that being said, it's going to be a big NFL Sunday. It's a big NFL Sunday. We're kind of towards the midpoint already, week 9. It does not feel right to be saying that. But with that being said, it's flying by, and we're going to go game by game, talk a little bit about each team, how it's looking, and just kind of get into it. But with that being said, let's see how I've been doing so far in the season because I really haven't checked the season as a whole. It's been, like I said, a rough season. Out of everyone, I'm 31st out of 46 with a 61.9% rate. I'm 75 and 46 and 1. And in order to have any hope, the first place is 85. So I'm not, completely far behind. I'm only 10 games, and I can make that up in half the season. But I really got to start locking in, kind of finding those upsets where no one else does. And I'm going to try that. I just made quick predictions, but I am going to be changing some because, when I was on my morning walk this morning, I was like, I got to change the strategy, predict more upsets, kind of just go numbers based, see where I can find them. But with that being said, we'll get into it. Your boy did get off to a good start this week. Thursday Night Football, Ravens at Dolphins. I've always been a Baltimore guy. They were my pre-Super Bowl prediction pick, and that still doesn't look good. But over the last 2 weeks, they have bounced back from their 1-5 start, picking up that win last Sunday against the Bears. A very impressive win, kind of saving their season win. Tyler Huntley looked good. That offense got going. And then Thursday night, Lamar picked up right where he left off, dropping 4 touchdowns. Derrick Henry still hasn't quite gotten going this season. I don't know if he's kind of hitting that age cliff or what it is, but the passing offense was still legit, and just the threat of those two in the backfield. And then this Ravens defense has finally gone back on track a little bit, allowing 16, 17, and 6 points in their last 3 games. They kind of had that midseason turnaround last year, and hopefully that is what it is because the secondary with Kyle Hamilton, Nate Wiggins, they're still one of the best secondaries in football, Marlon Humphrey. And I know Matabike's out, but that front seven can still get after a little bit. Roquan Smith, this defense was just too talented to be this bad, and they've bounced back in a nice way. They're at a point now, 3-5, well in contention for the AFC North. That they saved their season with that win against the Bears because if they went to 1-6, I don't know what people would have thought. And the way the Bears were playing, it seemed like a Bears lock, but that was just another upset that people got wrong. And the Ravens now have a lot of momentum heading into next week, where they'll play my Minnesota Vikings. But with that being said, credit to Baltimore, nice win. Dolphins had a great win against the Falcons. Pink eye Tua, we called him, with 4 touchdowns, and then that offense just went back to being inept. It's been a rough season. The Dolphins defense has really been a big disappointment. But credit to the Ravens. I think they're the more talented team. Obviously, with the Lamar quarterback, they're going to win a lot of games, and they've won 2 in a row, 3-5 now. Still in a very manageable position to keep their streak going. But with that being said, next up, Bears versus Bengals, first game on our slate. Even though I'm a Vikings fan, I always try to be realistic. I think the Bears have a bounce back game. The Bengals blew it against the Jets. Joe Flacco on that offense looked amazing, but credit to the Jets, Justin Fields, Breece Hall, they got the running game going. Fields has either looked really good or really bad in the games he started. There's kind of really no in between. That kind of backs up from a fantasy perspective. But the Bengals defense is just bad, and I think Caleb Williams and the Bears offense will bounce back in this one. Roma Dunze, I know DJ Moore really hasn't gotten going, but DeAndre Swift has looked very good over the last couple weeks. Colson Lovin getting more involved. Luther Burn, if he can get more involved. I think this is a bounce back game for Chicago. I think their defense will do enough to contain Joe Flacco, even though he's been spam-themed Jamar Chase, which has been awesome for me in fantasy. Hope that continues today. T. Higgins, Chase Brown has looked a little bit better. The Bengals offense has looked good with Joe Flacco, but I just don't trust their defense, and I think the Bears are they've been a turnover happy defense. They haven't been the best defense by far. Honestly, they have been kind of disappointing on that end. But if they can force Joe Flacco, who's due to I think throw 1 or 2 picks in this game, I think the Bears will do enough to capitalize and get out of Cincinnati with a W. Next up, the NFC North rival game. My Minnesota Vikings go to the Detroit Lions, and for all of the expectations I had this year, it got to be realistic. I mean, obviously, I'm taking Detroit to win this one at home. Detroit has looked great, after week 1. Their offense has been one of the best in football. Amara St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta can get involved at points, Jamison Williams. And they, like I said, the run game for Detroit is amazing. Minnesota's defense has struggled with their run. Their defense has struggled overall in the passing game, too, against Philly and the Chargers, where they just got blew out on Thursday Night Football. That's kind of the low point. Obviously, now McCarthy comes back, so that is the intriguing point for me, I guess. McCarthy now, he started 2 games, won 1, lost 1, looked great for 1 quarter in that win against the Bears, but the other 7 quarters were not great. Taking sacks, just kind of inaccurate. I know Kevin O'Connell said they're working on the mechanics. Coming off, Detroit's coming off a bye, so they're going to be fully healthy. The Vikings are coming off a Thursday night game against the Chargers, so they're a little bit well-rested as well. I'm just intrigued if they can keep it this close and how does this offense look. I think the defense, it will be nice getting Van Ginkel back. He's a big, important chess piece to this team. But still, the cornerback situation, Akuda, I just don't trust. Murphy, hasn't made an impact he made last year. I don't know. I think Detroit's going to put up points. My biggest question is McCarthy now, his first game with Addison, Darisaw. If Darisaw can stay healthy, hopefully. I'm just curious how this offense can look because Detroit, for as great as a team they are, the secondary can be prone with all the injuries to get picked apart a little bit. So that's what I'll be looking for. Just, can McCarthy look good or at least just be more consistent where he might not have, I'm not expecting the Bears quarter, for 4 quarters, but I also don't want to see the Falcons game or the first 3 quarters of the Bears where it's just like under 100 yards, a couple picks here and there. Just, and a big part of it will having to be get the running game going. They can't fall behind too early. They gotta have Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones do something. And Jordan Mason has shown that. Aaron Jones coming back off the injury really hasn't yet. So I'm gonna watch it. Obviously, as a Vikings fan, but the season with all the free agent bust signings and just the draft picks that haven't really hit. There's a lot of question marks for my team heading into this offseason. That'll be very intriguing to tell about. But, it's always fun, a divisional game. And like I said, it's just going to be fun to see McCarthy. How does he look? And Detroit's always fun to watch. Jahmyr Gibbs, Amara St. Brown, they're must-see TV. And Detroit's defense can make some plays. Brian Branch coming back, Kirby Joseph, Aiden Hutchinson obviously getting some sacks. It will be nice having O'Neal and Darisaw back. So that matchup will be interesting to watch. But with that being said, I'm taking Detroit, more talented team, more consistent team. And yeah, they've had the Vikings number even the last couple of years. That Week 18 game last year where both teams are 14-2. Dan Campbell knows how to outcoach Kevin O'Connell. So I'm taking the Detroit Lions here. Next up, Carolina versus Green Bay. This is probably my lock of the week. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to win this game. They're back at home. The way they looked in the Steelers against that second half showed if they can just be more consistent, they're going to dominate. If this was in Carolina, maybe they look a little bit sloppier, but at home, I think Green Bay, they've only lost 1 game all year for how sloppy they've looked in some portions. Jordan Love showed at the high level he can play at. Tucker Kraft has turned into a top 3 tight end this season. Josh Jacobs still very consistent. This defense, Micah Parsons leading the league in pressures. And just the injuries with Bryce Young being banged up. Hopefully Ted McMillan can do something for my fantasy team. But the Carolina's run defense has looked atrocious. James Cook and the Bills ran all over them. And maybe Rico Dowdle can get going. This Panthers offense can do something, but Green Bay obviously is the better team all around. This is not an upset I'm picking here. I'm taking Green Bay. Next up, Denver at Houston. I'm taking Denver. I know Houston had a nice win last week. They've kind of figured it out after that 0-3 start. They're now like 3-1 to be 3-4 and still, hunting for a wild card spot. But this offense, in my opinion, I still don't trust fully. They had a great game against the 49ers last week, but Denver's defense is still elite, even with Pat Surtain out, Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, Riley Moss. I just trust Denver. I think their offense, is starting to figure it out a little bit more. That Giants comeback last week or 2 weeks ago, And then last week played a more complete game all around. Bo Nix, has shown up when it matters most. Maybe we'll need, a fourth quarter comeback again. But I trust Denver. They've only lost also one or two games all season. I think two games, and both were game-winning field goals. So the games they have lost have been heartbreakers. But I think they're the better team all around. I think as good as Houston's defense is, Denver's right up there with them. And I trust Denver's offense more with Sean Payton, Bo Nix. I think Cortland Sutton, J.K. Dobbins, this running game. R.J. Harvey had a big game last week. Might start him at some point for my fantasy team as I have him on the bench. So give me Denver to win this one on the road in Houston. So it might be a mini upset there. Next up, Atlanta versus New England. And this is one I'm switching. People might call me crazy because the Patriots have been amazing. Drake May looks like an MVP candidate. After starting off 1-2, they've rattled off like 5 straight wins. But Atlanta has been one of the most inconsistent teams. But with that becomes high highs and very low lows. And we've seen the low lows. Last week, at-home game blown out by the Dolphins. They only put up 6 points with Kirk Cousins in at quarterback. But the defense has been, for the most part, really good this year. And I just got a feeling. I don't know what it is. I think Atlanta, with this defense on the roads, find a way to get done. Bijan Robinson has a bounce-back game because he played not great last week, which is very rare. His first really bad game of the season where he did nothing through the ground or through the air, had a fumble. Drake London's back. He was definitely missing last week. Give me the Falcons to stun the Patriots. I think it's going to be a close game. Obviously, the Patriots with Mike Vrabel are very well coached. But if the Falcons just force a turnover or two here and there, I just something weird about it. I just have a gut feeling where I think the Falcons with this defense and Michael Penix returning, I think they'll do enough to get it done and to win this game. Yeah, it's just some gut feeling in mine. I love the Patriots. I think they've been playing amazing. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to win 11 games. I think this is just a game that they don't see coming, and the Falcons come in and get a stunner to still stay in wildcard contention. Next up, 49ers at New York. The 49ers, the injuries caught up to them last week. I don't even quite know who's starting this week, whether it's Mac Jones or Brock Purdy, but the Giants obviously losing Cam Scatterboo hurts, and I think he was a big part. It says Brock Purdy has a good chance to play, but whether or not it's either of them, I think Kyle Shanahan in this offense has a bounce back game. I think Christian McCaffrey gets going. I think George Kittle continues to get more involved, and I think the defense has a bounce back game. They could knock off the field last week. Robert Saleh was probably steaming as it looked like against the Texans. I just think with all the injuries, though, I think it's going to be an ugly game. The Giants front seven is still very good, but I think the 49ers have the coaching advantage in this one. I think just the slight talent advantage. While I love Jackson Dart and the swagger he brings, I've been a big fan of him since at Ole Miss. I think they're going to miss having Cam Scatterboo there. I think if Cam Scatterboo played, I would take the Giants, but I think the 49ers will find a way to bounce back and, stay in contention in the NFC West. Next up, Indianapolis versus Pittsburgh. This is another game where I'm really tempted to take the upset because when Pittsburgh's fading, they lost 2 straight. They, really let go of the rope against the Packers after playing pretty good in the first half. The Packers just stomped them in the second half. The Colts have been rolling, though. 7-1. Jonathan Taylor looks like the MVP. Daniel Jones looks like most improved player. Tyler Warren, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman. Weapons for days all around this team. The defense has made a lot of has been a very good turnover defense with Lou Radamumo, Cam Bynum, Travarius Warren, Latu making plays. At Pittsburgh, I could see this being a game where no one expects, and somehow the Steelers win 20-17. And that's what I'm going to roll with. Call me crazy. I love the Colts. I love Daniel Jones, coming to the Vikings for 2 months, just kind of riding it out. Wish he stayed with us. He's been a beast. But this is just a game where Pittsburgh, I think, just finds a way to win. They've, found ways to win. Everyone's going to ride them off. Indianapolis coming in super hot. But I think Pittsburgh punches them in the mouth a little. I think Aaron Rodgers, Jaylen Warren has been very good. DK Metcalf, if they just find a way, I think Indianapolis defense has been very turnover happy. So if Aaron Rodgers they can just control the ball, control the clock with Arthur Smith calling the plays. I think they do enough to squeak this one out. I think Pittsburgh's defense, has been very disappointing. Highsmith, TJ Watt haven't lived up to the hype. If this is just a game that they can rattle Daniel Jones, feed off the crowd, I think they find a way to get it done. Call me crazy, but I need to start picking some more upsets. So these are 2. I'm riding Falcons and Steelers. Next up, the last 1 o'clock game, Chargers at Titans. I'm taking the Chargers. It hasn't been pretty for the Chargers over the last month, but they dominated the Vikings. Herbert really got back on track. Joe Alt came back. Saw the difference that made when he has protection. Vidal has been great with all the injuries to running back. The Chargers defense had a nice bounce back game. In Tennessee, it's just been a disaster year. Cam Ward, it's unfortunate. They'll have to get a new head coach in the offseason. With Mike McCoy just being the interim right now, can't really expect much. If Cam Ward just continues to show flashes, that'll be the plus side for Tennessee. But the Chargers will take care of business on this one, not really thinking twice about it. Next up, the first 4:00 game. I think Tyler Shaw is making his full start. I've been a Spencer Rattler guy. I think it was too early to pull the plug. But with that being said, the Rams are a Super Bowl contender in my eyes. The way they went in London 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville and just dominated. Nakua's back. Devontae Adams has been great so far. Matthew Stafford looks great. Kyren Williams, Jared Verse, Byron Young. This defense on the front seven, especially getting things going, kind of a lock at home. I'm not really thinking much about it. I think the Rams will win this one. Could also be the other lock of the week. And then next up, Jacksonville versus Las Vegas. I'm taking Jacksonville. The last 2 weeks were pitiful after a 4-1 start. Not doing much against, I forget who it was, but they lost like 20-12 against some team a couple weeks ago. And then obviously again, destroyed by the Rams. It could have been closer than what it was. They're moving the ball a decent amount, but they just could not capitalize. Now Travis Hunter's on IR. And Brian Thomas Jr. is reportedly getting shopped. But Trevor Lawrence, ETN, I think Brian Thomas will have to get going at some point. This defense has been very good. I know the Rams game, puts a sour taste in people's mouth, but they're well rested. And I know the Raiders are too. But this offense with Geno Smith has really just taken a big step back, just kind of putting the ball in harm's way too much. Brock Bowers coming back should help some things out. I think this game will be a close one, maybe more of a shootout. But I'm trusting Jacksonville. I think they're the more disciplined team. I think they'll find a way to keep their AFC South slim hopes alive the way the Colts have been playing and improve to 5-3 despite Travis Hunter being out. And then next up, the key mark, the 425, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo, after their 2-game skid, snapped out of it, just putting BTA against the Panthers. Kansas City just, winning against the Commanders despite a slow start. Mahomes throwing a couple picks. One was on Kelsey. But this Chiefs offense has just looked so good so far this year. Mahomes is the MVP favorite. Rashee Rice coming back has played a big spark. Xavier Worthy can get going. Kelsey looks more revived. This defense has been getting it to its own. I like Kansas City to go on the road in Buffalo. I think Buffalo's had Kansas City's number in the regular season over the last couple. Obviously, we know Kansas City has had Buffalo's number in the playoffs. I'm taking Kansas City, though, to win this one. I trust their offense more consistently. Buffalo, just the playmakers outside James Cook, I think has really caught up to them. And, Josh Allen, as great as he is, the receivers can't get open. And I think Kansas City's defense has gotten it into its own. Their offense is more electric. Buffalo's run defense has been atrocious. Pacheco's been getting going. Kareem Hunt can gain those tough yards. I like Kansas City to get the upset here, even if it is an upset. I think Kansas City is just the more complete team, and I think they'll win this one, despite it being Buffalo. It should be a great game. Obviously, it always is, but give me Buffalo. And then next up, Sunday Night Football, Seattle versus Washington. Seattle, my boy Sam Darnold. Still hurts that we let him walk, but, he's been playing great with Seattle so far. Him and JSN, has been one of the best connections in football. And just Washington, just the question marks at QB, injuries with Terry McLaurin, Jane Daniels. I think Seattle's defense is better. I think their offense is better. Kenneth Walker has really been great. Zach Charbonnet, if he can get going, JSN, if Cooper Kupp, someone else, Torrey Horton, if someone else can just step up this offense, will be electric. They're 4-2, 5-2 I think 5-2. They're in the thick of the NFC West hunt in first place. Give me the 49ers, give me the Seahawks to win this one, Washington. It's just been a little bit of a step back this year, which was unfortunate. I thought Jay Nails might take that MVP leap, but just with injuries, the Terry McLaurin contract, them not being on the same page, and just kind of Jay Nails, the rotation of a couple of injuries. They're still competitive. They played the Chiefs, tough for a while, but Seattle, I think, is the better defense, the better offense all around. JSN looks unstoppable. Give me the Seahawks to go in on Sunday Night Football and win. And then last up, Arizona versus Dallas. Jacoby Brissett starting, even though it looked like Kyler was clear to play. I had Kyler starting in fantasy, and then all of a sudden says he's out. Brissett has made the Cardinals offense definitely look better. They went toe-to-toe against the Colts and Packers. He's been getting Trey McBride the ball and Baltimore. This could definitely be another shootout where Dallas loves to play those at home. With CD and Pickens, I think this Cowboys team, while they got destroyed in Denver, I think that was kind of, easy to predict. Denver's offense was going to move the ball because everyone moves the ball against Dallas, but Dallas also moves the ball against everyone. I think at home, this is a game Dallas wins a classic like 37-30 shootout. CD and Pickens have been one of the best wide receiver duos. I won together, even when CD was out. George Pickens looked like a stud. Javonte Williams has been great. Fantasy, let's go. Yeah, I'm taking Dallas at home. I think Arizona, they've just suffered a flurry of, after starting off 2-0, just one score losses. I think that continues. I think it's over. While I picked Arizona to win the NFC West, I'm kind of, stomping at that. But, you got to have some bad predictions. But with that being said, yeah, I think it's a shootout that Dallas will pull out, and I have the score 37-30. So that's why I have it at 57 as my game point total. But with that being said, let me get your guys' thoughts in the comments. What do you think about my upsets? Am I crazy? Is New England going to blow out Atlanta? Is Indianapolis going to steamroll Pittsburgh? Did I miss anything? Can Cincinnati upset Chicago or Houston take care of business against Denver? I'm always curious to get your guys' thoughts in the comments. But with that being said, if you're an NFL fan, please make sure to like and subscribe because, we're all NFL podcasters or NFL fans. That's the one thing we have in common. One day we come together, just celebrate all our teams or, cry as we get destroyed, which my Vikings very well might. But with that being said, as always, thank you guys for listening. I'll make sure to have a video out later on this week, recapping the games and previewing next week's as always. But as always, thank you guys for listening. Catch you in the next one. And I'll see you.